A Lesson Learned by Gail Houghton of Coonabarabran, 2357. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Teacher! Teacher! What is it with these students? I was told in the job interview how respectful they were. The parents valued education. Teaching overseas would be a dream, a doddle. Teacher! Teacher! That's all I hear. They know my name. It's not hard to say. Some of their names give a calisthenic workout for your tongue. I've persevered. I've learned. Why can't they? Should I start calling out, boy, boy, or girl, girl? What about just a point and say, hey, you? No, I could never do that. It would be too disrespectful and could even sound demeaning. I had expected better than this. What a letdown. That was my initial reaction to working in schools in the Middle East. I wasn't happy. The students were like sponges with learning, so keen, interested and full of life. There was just this one annoying habit. Teacher! Teacher! I didn't want to cause conflict or appear to be an ungrateful, whinging expat. I kept quiet, did my job, formed friendships with teaching staff, support staff and parents. The teaching was all it was advertised to be, just fantastic. Professionally, it was amazing, and personally, what an advantage to be in another country on the other side of the world, with opportunities to hop to yet another country for a weekend. Experiences most Australians would not be able to enjoy. Truly blessed. Surely I could overlook my bias, or was it just arrogance, or maybe ignorance? It wasn't until I was working with the Yazidi refugees on weekends that I was enlightened. They had fled ISIS, bombing their village. Their English was limited, so when they began calling, teacher, teacher, I didn't seem to mind as much, just accepted the name. Fundraising within the expat community allowed a local teacher to be employed and school supplies bought, including a tent with a floor to hold classes. The Yazidi had relocated to an abandoned hotel construction site when they fled from ISIS and came to the city. I noticed the children were calling the local teacher by his given name, yet we were referred to as teacher. I kept quiet, not wanting to appear petty about such a minor thing. The focus was on the traumatised children and their families. Their behaviour was not what I expected. We had to lock everything up after each session. Padlocks had to be put on the cupboards we bought to fill with the school supplies. If we didn't resort to this, there would be no supplies to use for our next sessions. The trauma of leaving their home and all their possessions made them covet what was brought in for them. They would take any leftover materials and hide them. Unconsciously, they worried these too would be taken away from them, just as ISIS took all they owned and all that was familiar to them. We hoped trust would be re-established in time and they would not feel the need to take these things. It would be a long journey, though, to any sort of normality. I was abruptly brought to reality when a seemingly insignificant incident happened. I was sitting waiting to help with English lessons when a small boy came and sat beside me. He moved closer to me and put his hand in mine. There was a collective intake of breath when the older children noticed what he did. He looked at me and smiled, showing his gap-filled mouth just like any 5-year-old. His attention was taken with the starting ball games and he dashed out to play. The older children began an earnest conversation. When someone could translate and explain what had just happened, it was incredulous. We were hit with such emotion, there was not a dry eye. This little boy was running for his life with his older sister. She had him tightly by the hand as they ran. ISIS was shelling them as they were fleeing their village. She was killed instantly as they were running, and in death her hand had gripped so tightly it had to be prized open to release his hand. He was scooped up and dashed to safety. He had not held anyone's hand since that day. What an unimaginable event for anyone to experience, let alone a 5-year-old child. What a privilege to be entrusted with this small hand. The cultural differences these children showed in their learning and behaviours were made even more complex with the added factor of war. We needed to understand this. They behaved and learnt very differently from the children in the school where we were employed. Same country, same ethnicity, but the traumas these children experienced were going to be with them for a very long time. After many weeks of working with these children, we noticed the local teacher was now referred to as teacher. It was explained that the children finally respected him enough to call him teacher and not by his name. It all became clear. There was no disrespect amongst any of these children, just the opposite. They used the name of the profession, not the person, as a mark of respect. It was unfortunate that this cultural difference had not been made known to us when we were employed. I was also glad I didn't make a fuss about the name as well. I was privileged to experience firsthand another culture with my work over the years of my contract. I would like to think the experiences of living and working for many years in other countries had allowed me to function with more empathy and understanding of those cultures. It is easy to criticise something that is different, easy to judge. Many factors make us unique with our cultures, and sometimes circumstances exacerbate our differences. David Attenborough shows us how amazing the natural world is. Nobody can deny that. People in their diversity and differing cultures are just as amazing. The end.